Welcome to the Audience Converter Podcast, the podcast for converting your audience from strangers to loyal fans. We dive deep and discuss how entrepreneurs, consultants, and coaches can level up their business to help more people in the world. Now here's your host, the creator of the audience conversion method, Kimberly Weitkamp.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Audience Converter Podcast. I'm Kimberly Weitkamp, your host, conversion copywriter, and marketing strategist. And today I am so excited to talk about this topic that we have. Public speaking is one of those things that a lot of entrepreneurs were not too sure about or how it would work, but really it's a great way for you to move from going one-to-one to one-to-many. And to talk about this today, I am so excited to introduce Kimberly Hobscheid, is an award-winning international inspirational public speaker, best-selling author, audiobook producer, six-time entrepreneur. That's right, six-time entrepreneur. And she is the creator of Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel, an active community of entrepreneurs looking to contribute, connect, and grow with other entrepreneurs. Her vision is to inspire all entrepreneurs to achieve their genius in whatever way that is. And she lives by the motto of live life out loud. So Kimberly, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here.
Hey, Kimberly, super excited to be here. You've got a great tribe, a great community, and I'm really, really glad to be connecting with them today.
Awesome. I'm so excited to have you on because, entrepreneurs, so much of the time we feel like we're all alone. And, how do we get out? How do we get our message out there? How do we go beyond that one-to-one conversation? So when we dive in here today, can you just tell me a little bit about kind of how you got started? I mean, six-time entrepreneur, that's just a few times getting started. So tell me a little bit about how you got started and kind of what brought you to do what you're doing today.
Absolutely. Well, I that's a great question. I am a six-time entrepreneur. I also spent my time doing time in corporate. I spent 17 years in a Fortune 1000 company, climbing the ladder, walking directly into those golden handcuffs that some of us have walked into, and found myself sort of at the top of that game as a director level, executive director level, and running offices from San Diego to Texas, about 30 offices reported up to me, and I had a ton of responsibility and a ton of business, and I was making great money, but I was carrying somebody else's banner, doing things that really didn't. When you look at yourself and you're like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing in life? It just didn't ring true to who I was or what I wanted to do. And while climbing the ladder, I really felt I had a great impact. Once I got sort of to the top, it was more of, we want it done this way, and I was feeling that my input was no longer as valued, so it wasn't joyful for me anymore. And I made the tough decision to step out and decide to go full time as an entrepreneur. Now, luckily, I actually had entrepreneurs in my family and knew an entrepreneur lifestyle, so I had side gigs, as many of us do, and I had multiple businesses, and I decided to go full time. And then when I went full time, I actually grabbed one of the businesses that I'd already been working and grew that. And it grew to the point where I wanted to sell it. I sold a total of 3 businesses, grew and sold 3 businesses, and that was fun. And my 4th business was pretty much what I was doing in the corporate world, because I knew it, because it was safe, because it was what I already understood. And I was just doing more of that. And I thought, gosh, I really don't think I'm supposed to be here on this planet just to do this. And so it was a real spiritual awakening, as it were. And I thought, I really need to do something else. And my son came to me, and he was 15 and a half, and going into the summer, and he said, it's a bummer because I can't get a summer job, and I don't want to go to summer camp. And I said, well, you're never too young or too old to be an entrepreneur, so let's start a business for you. And that's how I started to be an entrepreneurial coach. We actually grew an audiobooks business where he narrated audiobooks, and then we got other people in to narrate audiobooks, and now we produce audiobooks, and it's a healthy, thriving little business and doing really, really well. But part of my lessons that I learned were you really have to do what you love, and you have to be comfortable talking about it every day. And if you're not, then you may not be doing what you really love to do.
Wow. So many amazing nuggets in that little story. 17 years in corporate, climbing that ladder. I love that you call them the golden handcuffs because while it seems like you have everything, you're kind of tied to something that you may or may not want to do and you have to follow other instructions, even though you're at the top of the ladder. And then, having your son as your first client, what was that experience like for you?
Oh, good question. So, teenage sons are what they are. We had a ton of fun right at the beginning, and then he wandered off and wanted to do other cool things. It ended up being a business that I run primarily, but it was really, really fun, sort of handing over the reins and saying, look what you can create. And he is very entrepreneurial right now. He started several other little online businesses and generated income from each one of them. One of the great things about talking with them early is teaching him that getting in front of other people and doing public speaking and talking about what you do can really multiply your success in a very, very big way.
Absolutely. It's so important to kind of realize that you're in your little bubble, right? You've got those one-to-one conversations going, but if you ever want to get out of that, you do have to talk about what you do and be comfortable in the way you phrase it. So tell me a little bit about how public speaking can be an opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Well, I that's a great question, Kimberly, and it's something that I'm really, really strongly, powerfully engaged with. I think that if you can speak one to many instead of one to one, you amplify your success. And I'd like to ask your audience, think about what their business would be like if they could get their message and speak in front of 50 people every week. How would their business change? Like, what would be different about their business if they could get in front of either virtually or physically in front of 50 people every week? The landscape of your business will dramatically change because you're no longer picking up the phone and chasing leads. You're sharing with a group of people what it is that you do and what the value is and what they can get out of it and why they care, and sharing that you have a solution for their problem. And then they will in turn come to you and say, yes, I'm interested. And then you have customers chasing you rather than you chasing customers. Now, I'm a big fan of picking up the phone and following up leads, but if you don't have any leads to follow up, the one-on-one cold calls, that's no fun. Not for them and not for you either.
I'm certainly not a fan of the one-on-one cold calls, and I don't do them very often for sure. But if you are an entrepreneur and you've realized that you've got this message, you're really passionate about it, is there ever a point where you feel it's too early to start speaking in front of at least 50 people a week?
Good question. Kimberly, you're so right on. A lot of people have this question. They feel like they don't have their ideal topic yet. They feel like they're not sure the model for speaking that will work for them. And they're not sure, even if they have all of that, they're not sure how to book stage time and get on stages. And those are really the three big things that people like get totally stuck, like iced down on. And there's a lot of myths out there about public speaking. They think they need to be a big name to be a public speaker, or they think they need to know their signature talk and have an exact perfect presentation, or that they need to be a natural born speaker. And all three of those are completely myths. You absolutely do not need to be a natural born speaker. I myself am an extrovert, but there are many introverts who are fantastic on stage, and they have the message and they want to get it out there. They just needed to learn some of the skills. And as an extrovert myself, I actually went to college at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and got a degree in communications. I loved to speak. I loved to be on stage before I went to college, but there were skills that I could learn that could make me a better public speaker. All of the skills for public speakers are learnable. And then the last myth that people believe that they need, that it's really hard to get on stages. There are many, many, many stages out there, from podcasts like this to radio shows to web summits to webinars to live stages. There are tons and tons of ways to get your message out to the public. Even Facebook Live is a really good methodology these days.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that you mentioned was you mentioned all of those different places that could be quote unquote stages. And, podcasting especially is one of those things where it's an easy way to ease into what you like to talk about and what your message is, because it is a one-to-one conversation if you're doing an interview most of the time, but it's going out to many people at once.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you have an opportunity to get your message out. And let's say you spend an hour on the phone talking to a prospective client. They may buy, they may not. But if you stand in front of a room of 50 people, not only are those 50 people potential clients, but the people they know are potential clients. Like, let's say, take my audiobook business with my son. If I go in front of a group of people and I say, my name is Kimberly, I help authors get wider streams of revenue and a bigger audience by creating audiobooks, then even if the people in the audience don't have a book themselves, they might have a brother that has a book or an uncle that has a book that they want to introduce me to. And they think, oh, you got to talk to this lady, Kimberly. She can get your book into an audiobook. So you're speaking not only to the group of 50 people in front of you, but potentially 50 people that each one of them know. So exponentially, you really are growing it's an hour well spent if you're on stage.
Definitely, definitely. So one of the myths you talk about is the fact that you don't need a signature talk. So if you don't have a signature talk, but you want to kind of start getting onto stages, whether that's in a small sphere like podcasting or radio, or if it's a bigger sphere like virtual summits, what can people do to try and figure out what that first topic they should talk about? Not necessarily their signature talk, because that kind of develops as you go. But what should people look for in a good topic to bring to a group setting?
You are so right. Your signature talk develops over time. And even when you have one, they change from time to time. So don't panic about having everything right. My motto in this world is done is better than perfect. All you have to do is get out there and test the waters. So say, for example, you have a Toastmasters group and you help people write a book, let's say. So you might get in front of your Toastmasters book and give knowledge, give value to that group. And you could say, here are the 3 things that people need to do in order to start writing their first novel. Or here are 3 myths that people think it's impossible for me to have a book. Or here are 6 great ways to come up with an idea for your very first novel. And you could actually give that information as a lecture. And you're not asking them to do anything at the end of it, maybe for you, because you haven't developed your full signature talk yet, but you're just testing the waters to see what resonates with the group and see if you're getting nods from the audience, see if you're getting engagement, and see if people really want to learn this stuff. You may be off on a topic that people don't want to learn. Try a different stage, try a different tactic, try a different message. But getting out there and starting to publicly speak, and that can be either on a podcast, radio show, web summit. You could do a little lunch and learn with a group. You could do Toastmasters group. You could just get a bunch of people together in your living room. You could go to a meetup and introduce yourself. There's a lot of different ways that you can get stage time, and just try it out, test things, see how it works, and then make adjustments and improve.
And you just rattled off like 15 different opportunities for people to get started, on finding the right perfect stage, right? All these different places that are actively looking for speakers. So many of us, especially in the entrepreneurial world, we're so focused on online or doing what we're doing that we kind of forget that we live in a neighborhood where there are people that want to meet up like in person, and they're always looking for good speakers. So, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of test out what I'm talking about. Is that something people are wanting to hear?
Yeah. And there are plenty of different places. Did you know, Kimberly, that public speaking is defined when you are speaking to 2 or more people? So everything other than those one-on-one conversations is an opportunity for you to practice publicly speaking.
So every time I talk to people at a networking event or at a conference, if there's more than 2 people in the conversation, it's public speaking, huh?
There's more than 2 people in your conversation. That's totally true. And I always ask, because it's hard to be at a networking event and be the lone person while 2 people are talking. I always try to open my body language and open my opportunity to speak to the second person that's sort of hovering nearby. So that's just a little side tip for networking. But if you bring more people into the conversation, then you're bringing more ears, you're bringing more audience members, and you're bringing more potential referrals from those people, from that other person who might know. You might be speaking to your ideal customer, but the person that's standing next to you is a plumber, but his wife is your ideal customer as well. So never exclude people in a networking event, and always open the conversation to 2 or more people.
Very, very true. You never know who people know, right? That's the whole point of going to events like that, because you want to meet not only the people in the room, but all of their connections as well. And one of the things, going back to kind of figuring out your signature talk, I want to point out that one of the things that you were mentioning a lot is, the three myths or the three tips or the three things that nobody knows about. And those are all really great starting points. We love listicles as a society, right? My marketing brain here working. Things with numbers in them, people love hearing that kind of information because it's very finite. So it tells them exactly what they're going to learn. And it tells them how long or short it's going to take for them to get all of the information. So 3 and 5 are really great starting points, just to have, those 3 or 5 tips or those 3 or 5 myths that you run into. And these are not things that you have to like go research really in depth on your own, because it's just based on your own experience.
That's right. If you don't know what to talk about, one really cool way to find something to talk about, I actually have a YouTube channel, and I speak pretty much every week on a topic. And people say, how do you come up with these new topics? And the answer is, it's because my customers are asking me questions. So if you already have a business that is up and running, then having those, when people call you and they say, Kimberly, I really don't even know where I'm supposed to post my picture of my book. Like what media is good for social media for books? And that's a great question. So my next YouTube video is going to be about like where you can post your book, like where you can post or announce a picture of your book, right? Simultaneously, I could create a downloadable PDF or a talk on the 6 places you should put your book, right?
Definitely. You've got that mind going about how all of the different channels and mediums, they're all different opportunities. And so, somebody may find you on YouTube, which is a one-to-many type of conversation sometimes, right? You create that video, a lot of people can see it, but you're not in a conversation like we are with the podcast. But, so many people, it's like, that's what they're searching for. If someone has that question, then a lot of people have that question.
Exactly. So just, it's a little shift in mindset, but it can really amplify your value and you become the go-to expert. If you are standing on a stage and you are talking about, for example, the one with the books, like if you're going to teach people how to create their first novel, if you stand on a stage and you talk about the 3 myths people have that prevent them from creating their first novel, you become the go-to expert. You are the person who speaks on this topic, and people will then give you authority and credibility because you have the stage. Once you have authority and credibility, you're in a much better position to forward your offer.
So let's talk a little bit about that. You said when you're testing out your ideas, you don't necessarily need to have an offer, but what is a good idea or a good starting point for crafting something that you can give an opportunity to join from the stage?
Right. So a lot of people say, I don't like to be sold. Everybody likes to buy, but you don't like to be sold. And that's true. And if you feel like people are going to throw up slides and say, look at the 15 points of how amazing my 20-point checklist is, it gets exhausting and people tune out. So what I like to say is that we're not really sharing all of the stuff about how great our program is. We share what our target market is, what the benefit our target market gets out of using us, and then in what way we serve them. So if you're saying the stuff about books, you might say my target market is potential authors, people who want to be authors. What they get at the end is a book completely finished and up on Amazon within 60 days. And what the methodology I use to get it to them is I do ghostwriting or a 6-week course or whatever it is that I'm offering. So those are the 3 things that you want to say in your invite. And for example, my invite to people who want to create audiobooks is I help authors get wider audiences and new streams of revenue from a book they already created by creating audiobooks. That tells them all 3 of those things. Who do I serve? What do they get if they work with me? And what am I going to do to them to make them get that result? And that's what people really seek. That's really an invite. And you can say, if you're interested, you can go to this website. My website for that particular company is I'm Hearing Stories. And if you go to that website, you can find out more information on it. Now you've set the tone so that if people are excited about it and they want to get new streams of revenue and a wider audience, and they're an author or they know an author, they might go check that out. That's more of an invite than a sale. It's not, here's how much you're going to pay. Here's how long it's going to take. Here's everything that you're going to get from me. It's just an invite to learn more. And that's what I recommend as a call to action from stage.
I like how that it kind of reiterates what you do. You've already given your value because you've talked about, the 3 myths, the 3 things people have to overcome, or the change in mindset. And you've really targeted in on, these are the people who I want to contact, right? These are the people who I want to contact me. And if by saying it and by phrasing it that way as an invitation to learn more, you're also cutting out the people in the audience who are not a great fit for you, which is always key.
Yeah, I agree with that. One pro tip that I always try whenever I do a podcast or any stage that I'm on, I always try to give a pro tip for the people who are like, yeah, I kind of knew that. But a pro tip is like taking it to the next level. So as a pro tip, if you're ever on a stage, do not ever say the following words. If you're interested, come see me. That never, ever works. So what you can do is have some sort of call to action that benefits them in some way. Like, for example, I'll give you a call to action for my audiobooks. If you're interested in learning 6 reasons why your book should be an audiobook now, you can go to I'm Hearing Stories and download the free PDF. So that is a call to action where they actually get something for doing something. So they get the prize, right? If you say, I want to sell you an audiobook, come see me. Why would anybody want to do that? Right? It just doesn't make any sense. So you will never get people coming, like jumping out of the aisles to pay you money unless they see value in that. So if you are on a stage and you say, for example, if you're a published author, would you raise your hand? And then you see how many people are published authors, try to keep track of that and go see those people yourself at the break. And then at the end of your presentation, you could say, for those of you who are interested in an audiobook, raise your hand if you'd like to see an audiobook as part of your repertoire in the next 6 months. And then watch those people raise their hand and then make a point to look at them in the eye and go see them at the break. It's your job because you're the one that's going to get the benefit.
Absolutely. And, that's the key phrase, right? Benefit. It's always important to give a benefit for why anyone should take the action. And it makes it so that it's not a direct, hey, pay me money if you want to learn more. It's, I have some more benefit from you. I've given you some. Here's some more. And you can go download it at XYZ site. So, Kimberly, we're nearing the end of our time. And, we've covered so many great things about the importance of public speaking, all the different stages that you can talk on and how you can get started. So if you were going to tell people to do one action step after listening to this episode, what would it be?
Go out and get yourself a stage of some kind, of any kind. Get on radio shows, podcasts, web summits, webinars, live stages. Meetup groups are a great way to get on stages, because if you are not being seen, you are being overlooked. If you are not being heard, your message is not getting out there. And if you are not being clear on that message, then it will not resonate with your audience. So you definitely want to be seen, be heard, and be clear on what you have to offer.
I love that little phrase, be seen, be heard, and be clear. Because if you're out there and you're not clear on what you're doing, then it comes across to everyone else, and then they're confused about how exactly you can help them.
Exactly.
So, Kimberly, again, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with my audience. If people want to learn more about you and what you do, where can they go to do that?
So I have a community, and I think everybody that's an entrepreneur, really, one of the things that I missed most about leaving corporate is I lost my community, right? The people that were around me that were on my same team. So as an entrepreneur, I really wanted to create community for entrepreneurs. So we have a community called Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel. It's a Facebook group. It's free to join, and it's full of amazing human beings who are entrepreneurs that serve entrepreneurs. There's great tips and tricks and a really great community that is there to help each other. So join a community. You're welcome to join Entrepreneurs Rocket Fuel on Facebook. We would love to have you. Or you can check out my website, entrepreneursrocketfuel.com. We would love to work with you and see about getting you on stages and getting the message out so you can be seen and heard.
Definitely important to be seen and heard and be clear about what your message is and how you can help people. Thank you again, Kimberly, and until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Audience Converter Podcast. For more information and important links about today's show or for access to our website, visit theaudienceconverter.com. Take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.